And welcome back, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate that. And I'm a huge fan of the Dark Souls games, so I expected Lords of the Fallen to be a cheap ripoff, and early on in the game I did not really like Lords of the Fallen very much, because you play this one-dimensional character who is going to stop the demonic army that has invaded the realm of man. Now, doesn't that sound familiar, right? Well, yes it does, because it's basically Doom, but in a third-person hack-and-slash action game. Again, much like Dark Souls. But as I played more and more of Lords of the Fallen, I actually started to appreciate it. And I do like the art direction here. It is a lot more colorful than Dark Souls. It feels like more of a comic book style of a game. It is larger than life with these huge armors and huge towering shields. But it really is the lighter tone that is, I think, the most interesting thing about this game. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Because Dark Souls, I love that game, but it takes itself way too seriously. There's some really corny dialogue in Lords of the Fallen, and I really like that. It's just so much fun to listen to these strange characters. It's crazy. There are a bunch of locations you'll visit, and the thing is that they kind of look very similar. You know, the snowy castles and the underground corridors and all that. It feels familiar, looks familiar, but it's well laid out. The levels are quite good. There are lots of little doors you can find, secret areas and all that. So if you're looking for that, for exploring, this game is really good. Now, sound and music is a mixed bag, really. Now, some of the environmental sounds just sort of kick in at times, and they stop also, and there's these audio logs you can find, but the dialogue just sort of disappears at times. It's really crazy. There is a problem with the mix of the sound. I don't know what it is, but it's just crazy. But the musical score is really excellent. It's fantastic. It's really appropriate. There are really great melodies here. Some really good, bombastic fighting music. It's fantastic. It's really good. Now, let's talk about the gameplay, because that's what a game is all about, of course. Well, in the beginning, you sort of select your starting class, and each of these classes have different attribute values, but you can mix things up as you go, as you level your character. So if you're not satisfied with the warrior, you can go and put more points into the faith attributes, so you can be more of a, like a cleric who can use magic more. Also, talking about magic, you get to choose one type of magic, and that consists of 3 magic spells you get from the get-go. And that's really cool. Some offensive spells, some defensive spells. So there's a lot of replay value to this game. Trying out different character builds is just really a lot of fun. But you will explore the world, and you'll kill enemies, and you'll level your character, and you can sort of spend the earned XP on your attributes, as I said, like strength, agility, and faith. But you can also put XP into magic points, so you can actually level up your spells as well. So that's really nice. And if you're like me, if you're like this loot junkie, then this game is definitely for you, because there are lots of chests spread throughout the world with goodies like all these weapons that are just better than the ones you're carrying. There are legendary weapons. There are armors to be found. There are shards you can use to upgrade your weapons. There's just a lot of stuff you can do. Now, the fighting system is where the Dark Souls comparison really kicks in, because the gameplay is very similar to Dark Souls, which means that it favors deeper skilled-based combat mechanics over mindless hacking and slashing. So don't expect Diablo or just, clicking with the mouse. No, you need to think about what you're doing. You need to read the moves of your opponent. You need to roll away. You need to circle them. You need to use shields at times, or sometimes you just need raw power. You need to dual wield your sword to do more damage. And it's that trial and error gameplay that I like so much in Dark Souls, and it's here as well. And it also shamelessly almost copies the exact control scheme as in Dark Souls. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's just the same thing. So if you've played Dark Souls, you know what you're in for. You can immediately play Lords of the Fallen. You know what? I like it. I like Lords of the Fallen because the combat is so beefy, it's so hefty, it's satisfying. There are lots of different enemies that have different moves. They're imaginatively designed. They require different strategies to beat. And they're bosses. I mean, this game is all about the bosses, and I love their design. They're big, they're grotesque, they're distinct, and I just love them. You need to use different tactics to take them down. Sometimes you need to get close and personal. Sometimes you need to roll away from them. It is amazing. I love it. But here is the problem, and that's the camera. If you're fighting this big, towering boss and you're really close to it, the camera just can't keep up. Same in small corridors when you're going through that and you're fighting enemies. The camera just gets all over the place, and that's just not a lot of fun. But if you can deal with that, and it's not a huge problem, but sometimes it's annoying. That's it. It's an annoyance. But on the other hand, this game is a lot more forgiving than Dark Souls. If you think that Dark Souls is difficult, then maybe Lords of the Fallen is more for you, because you get a lot of health potions, and the save points, there are a lot of them, even in the vicinity of boss areas. So you don't have to go through the whole level to get to the boss. Usually the save point is really close to the boss. But there is a trade-off, by the way, because the longer you play without saving, the higher the XP multiplier gets. So the longer you stay alive, you kill more enemies, you get more XP. But if you save at a save point, the multiplier gets reset to 1. So you need to sort of start all over again to get more XP. So in conclusion, if Dark Souls and Doom had a bastard child, it would look something like Lords of the Fallen. I mean, it does not share the looks of Dark Souls, because Dark Souls, it looks better, right? It has more variety in environments. It just looks... Dark Souls just looks great and impressive. But Lords of the Fallen does the combat almost as good as Dark Souls. It's almost the same, and I like it. And it sort of throws the Doom grotesqueness and the fun of Doom and the demonic influence into the mix, making this package a really fun package, a really fun game to play. So, this is quite a long review for Lords of the Fallen. But again, it grew on me. I like it. I can recommend it. I think it's quite cheap during sales, so get it, play it, enjoy it, and thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.